Hey guys, hope you had a good weekend. You should be watching this on Monday. We are currently in the Unit 7 Week 3 Monday folder. One thing I did want to go over with you guys last week, because I did not get to it yet, was your Battles of World War II activity. So this was in your Thursday folder. So as I told you going into World War II, we do discuss more of the actual battles than I did in World War One. So this is your activity sheet um, that you should have filled out on your own. If you want to cross reference with your own sheet, pull that up on Schoology, feel free. I am just going to be going through each of these battles and my own personal rankings with them. If your rankings are different, that's completely fine. I'm going to go through the battles and then I'll talk through what the summative should look like if you have not done it yet. My biggest thing is making sure that everything is done from last week before you move on to this week. Okay, and then in this video, I will also talk about the propaganda activity for today and then what I expect from that. All right. First one, Battle of Britain. This was one of the earlier battles that takes place in World War II. Obviously, it's going to take place in Britain and specifically London. So up in this point in World War II, Germany has advanced very aggressively throughout all of Europe. France is completely taken over, and now Germany has set its sights on Britain. However, the British held very strong against the German air attack, and it was the first major German defeat of the war. The Germans really targeted airfields, but also major cities as well. But the British Air Force is very strong, and they held their own against the Germans. All right. Another one that's very popular is Midway. We'll actually watch a movie after state testing over this specific battle. This is the first major U.S. battle following Pearl Harbor. All right. This was fought exclusively with ships and planes. So there's no fighting on land. It's specifically in the Pacific Ocean. And then kind of give you an idea, this is the midpoint between Hawaii and Japan. So it's a very strategic location in the Pacific Ocean. The Japanese attacked, hoping to take over that naval base. But the United States won the battle. And this victory turns the tide of the war in the Pacific. For the United States, instead of being on the defensive, they are now going to be the aggressor in the Pacific Ocean. The next one, Stalingrad. This takes place in 1942 to 1943. It's kind of important to note that at the beginning of the war, the Germans and the Soviet Union actually had a non-aggression pact, meaning that they were not going to attack each other. Hitler actually backs out of that and invades the Soviet Union. So that's the only reason the Soviet Union joins the war on the side of the Allies with the British and the United States, is because Hitler basically revoked his word. So what this was is the German offensive in the Soviet Union. They were trying to take more and more land. They got caught in the middle of the winter, and the Soviets trapped them inside the city. From this point forward, this is why this is important to discuss, Germany is going to be forced to backtrack the rest of the war on the Eastern Front, and the Soviets are going to gain more and more of their own land back. And Hitler had a very strategic plan for this battle specifically because the name Stalin was in the city. That's the only reason he wanted to go to the city, because it had the name of the Soviet leader Joseph Stalin in it. If he attacked Moscow instead, we could be talking about a different result in the war. All right, D-Day. If you know any battle from World War II, it's probably this one. All right, this was the largest amphibious invasion in history, meaning we had American, British, Canadian, other Allied forces storming the beaches of Normandy, France. This takes place in June of 1944. This really turns the tide of the war in Europe because it was a very successful invasion, and it's going to force the Germans to backtrack now on the Eastern Front and the Western Front. So their control of Europe is slowly shrinking by the day. Next, we have the Iwo Jima battle. This took place in March of 1945. If you've ever seen the iconic picture of the Americans holding up the flag during World War II on the mountaintop, that's where this came from. All right, this was a major battle on the Japanese homeland. So it was a small island at the very bottom of Japan. We win the battle. It's very strategic location close to Japan. Now we can have more raids and bombings on that homeland. Lastly, we have the Battle of the Bulge. This takes place in the winter of 1944 through the early stages of 1945. This was the last major German offensive within Europe. They tried to put as many men as possible in one location and break the Allies' line. The Allies bent, but did not break completely. This forced Germany to completely retreat into their homeland, and then eventually they lost the war. Okay, so these are the 6 major battles of World War II. There's hundreds of battles. I can't spend all of that time on it, but those are by far the most important. So on your summative, this is in the Thursday folder of last week. All right. In your opinion, what were the 2 most important battles of World War II and why? So what you should be doing is taking your first and second ranking, okay? So for me, that would be D-Day and then Midway. You should be taking those battles over here and listing those battles, but also explaining with evidence from ranking activity in a short paragraph of why you think those battles are the most important. Now, you can use some of this stuff I've talked about. For example, D-Day was the largest amphibious invasion in history. Midway, it turns the turning point of the war in the Pacific. You can use those words, okay, in this description right here, okay? So before you do anything else today, make sure you have that summative complete and turned in. All right. Now, today, what you should be working on, you are in the Monday folder. What you're watching right now is this video overview, okay? Now, you will be going into this propaganda activity. When you open this up, it's going to look like this. You have 12 total posters at your disposal. Those posters can be found right here in this PDF. I am not asking you to look at all 12. I'm asking you to pick 8 to view and then explain, okay, in these 3 boxes. All right. Once you view those 8 posters, you're going to come down here and answer these 3 reflection questions. So in your opinion, on that third question, which poster of the ones you viewed was the most effective and why? All right. Now, this is a key point right here. All right. You are going to grab a white sheet piece of paper from my black cabinet. If I don't have any, run down to the office and ask them to grab some paper from my room, and you guys can get it from there. And you are going to be making your own propaganda poster. All right. I'm looking for American flags. I'm looking for soldiers. I'm looking for conservation effort. You cannot get this wrong as long as you put effort in. All right, and I'm looking for that to be done on a white piece of paper and then turned in on my desk. All right, these directions are also located right here. Okay, and then like I said in the last video, if you need to pause and go back to any of this, feel free. When I post this video, it's going to be at the very top of this folder. Okay, the rest of the week, what you're going to look at, I'll have another overview video for you guys tomorrow to look at. We'll talk about the atomic bomb. Wednesday, we're going to look at the Holocaust. Thursday is going to be a big weekly check-in day, making sure you have all of these things completed. I know a lot of you guys have been out for sickness. I know I'm asking you guys to do a good amount while I'm out. So I am providing a catch-up day each week I'm out. And then Friday, we'll start reviewing with our review activity. If you guys don't have everything done, though, okay, we need to get all of these things completed as well as last week's stuff before we move on to the Friday folder. All right. I'll be sending weekly check-ins with you guys as well. If you're missing anything, if you have any questions, need anything from me, feel free to reach out. Thanks.